It's time for From the Shortgrass, presented by UAMS Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine with Trey Schaap. A golf podcast for those who love golf, struggle with golf, and just like to enjoy the outdoors and fellowship with friends, all while chasing a ball around, trying to put it in a 4 1/4 inch diameter hole. From the Shortgrass is presented by UAMS Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine, and brought to you by Stevens Incorporated, an independent financial services firm with the freedom to focus on what matters most. By Beechwood Hospitality, we partner with you to deliver high-yield results by managing, developing, and investing in top-quality hospitality assets. And now, from the Shortgrass, here's your host, Trey Schaap.
Welcome to another edition of From the Shortgrass, presented by UAMS Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine. I am your host, Trey Schaap. UAMS Ortho now open at the Orthopedic and Spine Hospital at UAMS Health, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and Saturdays, 8 a.m. to noon. Congratulations to Justin Rose, who wins the first leg of the FedEx Cup playoffs by defeating J.J. Spawn on the third playoff hole at the FedEx St. Jude Classic over in Memphis over the weekend. Tommy Fleetwood had a lead but could not close out and earn his first PGA Tour victory. The top 50 after the FedEx St. Jude Classic move on to this week's BMW Championship. Coming up on this edition of From the Shortgrass, I sit down with former Razorback golfer Kim Backus. You might think, Kim Backus played for the Razorbacks? Yes, he did. He also was a Wilson golf rep and a Nike rep in the state of Arkansas, and he's got an interesting story about both of them. We're going to talk to Kim Backus after the break. Stay with us.
I'm Dr. Lowry Barnes. When it comes to orthopedic care, there's no place like the Orthopedic and Spine Hospital at UAMS Health. We built this hospital just for you, with state-of-the-art surgical suites, advanced technology, and the state's largest group of fellowship-trained orthopedic surgeons. It's the best place in Arkansas to get you moving again. And if you need urgent orthopedic care, UAMS Ortho Now is right here for you at the Orthopedic and Spine Hospital at UAMS Health, where motion lives and service leads.
Strength is measured not by the number of accounts. Strength is placing value on relationships. It's having the vision and the guts to invest in growth. It's the commitment to responsibly manage your money. At Stevens, we believe that our strengths build success, not only for us, but for our clients. Stevens, member NYSE, SIPC.
The next time you travel to El Dorado and need overnight accommodations, the Haywood Hotel is where you need to stay. The Haywood El Dorado Tapestry Collection by Hilton is a great place to stay if you're in South Arkansas, listening to live music or playing the challenging Mystic Creek Golf Club. Take time and relax in their bar for a drink before going out on the town for dinner. The Haywood, 210 South Washington, right in the heart of downtown El Dorado. Search the Haywood El Dorado on the web or call 800-293-0718 for reservations. The Haywood, a Beechwood hospitality property.
Welcome back to this edition of From the Shortgrass, presented by UAMS Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine. I am your host, Trey Schaap. Kim Backus played golf for the Arkansas Razorbacks back in the 70s, went into pharmaceutical sales right out of college before joining Wilson Sporting Goods and selling for them. And after several years with them, he switched to Nike. Right in the beginning, as Nike was able to land Tiger Woods as one of their staff professionals. I asked Dan Snyder about his good friend Kim Backus, and he told me he was far and away the best sales rep he's ever had. He knew the product inside and out, backwards and forwards. He did say you didn't want to watch him chip when playing golf with him. I've played with Kim Backus, and I don't recall ever watching him chip, probably because he hit the green and didn't have to pull out a wedge to chip. On the tee, Kim Backus. Kim Backus, thanks for joining me on this edition of From the Shortgrass. So when did you first pick up a golf club? Do you remember?
I tell you, I got started when I was 14 as a caddy. I was caddying at Cherry Hills in St. Louis, and I was public golf player before. You know, that gave me access to a country club. But that first year of my highlights, I got to caddy with Bob Rosberg in the summer. You know, those Monday outings that you do, and he was one of those. So I got, and this was like in 1970, and he had just won the PGA like the year or two before that. So being a St. Louis kid, that was pretty cool. So,
that was pretty cool. My gosh, Bob Rosberg, how about that? What do you remember about caddying for him?
Well, he was just real polite and tried to help me. I mean, I was a 14-year-old kid. It was really my first year of caddying. And so there's just his grace and patience and, you know, giving me tips and stuff. And so I was like a sponge. I just wanted to listen all in. And then I caddied the next few years through high school, and that's how I got involved with golf.
Did you play on your high school team?
Yes, my senior year. But I was mainly a baseball player back then. I played hockey. So back in those days, you would play 3 sports, and golf was really a summer sport. You know, people didn't play it year-round like they do now. And but baseball and hockey were really my main 2 sports in high school. So.
And then did you decide, okay, let's try and play this in college?
Yes, I went to JUCO my first year, and we had a good team. We got to go to nationals. I got to play in the National Junior College Championship, and I was the only freshman on the team, and the other 4 guys left, and so that's when I left too and came down to Arkansas.
What was that like?
It was fun because at that time they were bringing in a lot of JUCO guys from Odessa, Grayson Junior College, West Ark. You know, West Ark, when Richard was coaching, had some good players and stuff. So it was at that time a bunch of guys coming in from elsewhere. So we were all in the same situation, so it was fun.
Where did you get to play in Fayetteville back then? Because obviously the facilities now are not like what they were back then.
No, there was 2 golf courses. We played Paradise Valley. We played Fayetteville Country Club. And then about once a month we'd go up to Bella Vista and play. And the old Bella Vista Country Club was really good back then.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually did some qualifying over in Don Hill and Siloam Springs. I don't know if you're familiar with that course.
No, I have not been there.
It used to be a nice little like resort course they had in Siloam Springs. So yeah, but now the facilities are unbelievable. It's a whole different animal. The teams are so much better. It's, you know, but also when Steve Lloyd came in, like years after that, he brought all his junior college players too, and that's when really the program became what it is today.
Did you ever think, Kim, that, okay, let me see, could I make it on the PGA Tour?
No,
could I turn pro?
No, that wasn't even a consideration. But I was lucky enough to get into the golf industry, and that's what I, wanted to do. So,
how did you do that?
Well, when I first got out of school, I was a pharmaceutical rep, and I did that for a few years. And then Wilson, who was big back in the 80s back at that time, was looking for somebody in this area, and 3 people had recommended me. I was on the road and worked for Johnson & Johnson at that time, Ortho Pharmaceuticals, and they called me and asked me if I'd come up to Chicago and interview, and I said, heck yeah. And so,
what time of the year did you go to Chicago, though? Because sometimes that can play a role in whether or not you take the job or not.
Actually, I went up there in the fall, and my wife and I were having our first child in January, and they wanted me to start in the fall, and my insurance was all with J&J, and I told them I wasn't leaving until my child was born. So she was born on January 14th. The next day I called J&J and said I had a kid. They were all excited, and I said, and I quit.
Oh, man.
And I went to Wilson, and within the week, my first meeting with them, they flew me to Vegas. And I go, this is good. We stayed at, this is how old it was. We stayed at the Desert Inn. So
wow. Yeah, that's pretty
so
old.
That's reaching back. And so I got started with them, and it was like a dream come true. And it was interesting. I got some training when they would send me to 2 weeks to work at the factory with Bob Mandrella. They taught us how to grind irons and woods, persimmon woods and stuff, do the whippings. And, it was interesting. So you actually learned how everything was made. They took us to the golf ball factory. This was back when wound balls were made.
Oh, yeah.
And got to learn all about, how wound balls were made and stuff like that, and golf balls. So, if you like that stuff, it was like really interesting. So,
did it help you with your game knowing how the clubs were made, how the golf balls were made?
Yeah, especially at that time, because not as much now. You were concerned about leading edges and face framing, and the progression of the club, the bounces and all that stuff, top edge, which you really don't have that much now. So in our day, a custom club was, if I was going to make a club for you, we would grind it and put your stamp number on it, so you get it. So you might like something with a more rounded leading edge or just whatever fits you. And that's why I was there. Wilson was a little late to get into the custom business because they thought that was custom. And of course, Ping came out. It was all the same head. They were just in lie angles and the length like that. And they thought that was custom. And at that time, Wilson goes, that's not custom. That's just, same club. So it took them a while to, get in that part of the business too. So
how long were you with Wilson Golf?
I was with them for about 16 years.
Long time.
Yeah. So total in the golf industry, I was in it like 38 years.
When did you move to Nike, though?
That was in 1999. That's when they were starting the golf division. So I was one of the first ones hired on when they were starting. And that was basically, they were building that around Tiger, My first meeting with them, they hired me and they flew me to Hawaii. So both times, being in the golf, it was pretty fortunate. So they flew us out to the Big Island. It was the first time they put us all together. And they had golf balls at that time. And what was great for me, because Glenn was playing the ball back then.
Glenn Day.
Yes. And he was the first PGA Tour player to win with the Nike golf ball. And when we'd go to the headquarters there, they had the Tiger Woods building. That was where our offices were. And they had a history of like Nike golf. And they had a picture of Glenn doing the fist pump after he made the putt, to win there. And it was just kind of cool knowing. So they all gave us a golf ball in a little cubicle with Glenn on it. And that was pretty neat. And then progressing into the next year, we went to Sun River in 2000. And that's when they had Tiger Woods announce he was switching to our golf ball. So, and he showed up. Nobody knew he was going there. He was on stage and tells them he's changed his ball. This is the week before Pebble Beach, and he's changing to the golf ball, and he announces. So he goes out and puts on a clinic for us. Seeing Tiger hit the golf ball in June of 2000, right when he's getting a win.
That's his prime.
Yes, it was unbelievable. I mean, in the stories and stuff he can say. And when he switched to the ball, he was playing a wound tideless ball at the time. 2% of the tour players, I believe, were playing a solid core ball back then. All right. He wins by 15 shots.
Mm-hmm.
The next year at the U.S. Open, 2% of the players are playing a wound ball.
Mm-hmm.
That was the impact. He had to change it to a solid core ball. And, of course, the rest is the history. Right after that, we came out with that ball that summer, and then Pro V came out in the fall because all the players were wanting to go to a solid core ball.
How much did Tiger affect the game of golf from a manufacturer standpoint?
At that time, they're talking about moving the needle, and stuff like that. He was the needle. He drew so many people in from the outside. So he brought new golfers to the game. And, at that time, historically, it was more of a country club thing. Like, he brought all new golfers. And he brought more eyes on TV. I mean, he's one of the few people like Arnold Palmer or Muhammad Ali or Michael Jordan. He's one of those athletes that everybody knows, I mean, male, female, kids, old people, and he was a transcendent, athlete. And so it was, it was impactful.
You could just say one word and you know who you're talking about. It's like Jordan.
Right.
Okay. You know who you're talking about. Pele. You know who you're talking about. Ali. You know who you're talking about.
Right.
When it comes to golf, when you say Tiger, you know who you're talking about.
And he is. And then there's very few athletes that are like that. Arnie was one, like you said, Muhammad Ali, all these guys, Gretzky, and, Babe Ruth. And, Tiger was definitely, and he elevated the game. Arnie was the first one to really bring the game up and Jack, because he was just such a tremendous player. But then, but I even got to tell you, Daly had a lot of effect too. I mean, he brought a lot of new people into the game. And so I was really fortunate because when I started with Wilson, I got to meet Saracen in the beginning. So we go way back.
Wow.
Got to do a outing with Sam Snead.
Yeah.
I did a couple of my favorite was Patty Berg, and nobody ever talks about Patty. Patty won 15 majors. She's like the only number they don't talk about. She has the woman record. Nobody comes close to it, But, man, she was unbelievable. She loved the people. We'd do an outing with her. She would sit and talk until everybody was gone. And so I got to see that transition. And I got to see Daly coming when I was with Wilson, too. Still can't believe he won the British Open playing the Invex driver because that had to be the hardest driver to hit. And he won the British Open, And I went through the Payne Stewart area and on up until, Tiger. So, I mean, for me, I feel very fortunate because I got to have lunches with Kerry Medikoff, Kim Venturi and stuff and get to meet so I saw the game go from Saracen to Tiger. It was
pretty impressive.
It was fun. I mean, I had a good front row seat to get to, meet a lot of these people.
Did you ever have any interactions with Phil Knight?
I met him a couple of times and not really interactions. We got to talk to him. He's, they keep him pretty to himself. But I did get to meet him here when Oregon came here to play basketball at Alltel at that time, In the
NCAA
and
tournament.
Memphis was here.
Yep.
I think this year they had Justin Rose or whatever at guard.
Yep. Cal was coaching them.
Yes. So he was sitting a few rows down in front of me, and when my buddies come down, and I got to talk to him, and he was real gracious, told me I worked for him here in town. But no, he's a pretty interesting guy, and especially if you ever read his book Shoe Dog. So
Kim, what was it like traveling around your territory here in Middle America, hawking Nike golf clubs?
Well, I had some negativity in it. I mean, there was
really.
Oh yeah, I mean, I had some guys that were not big, into Tiger in my territory and stuff like that. So when I speak to them in Portland, they couldn't imagine, but I did. But then on the other hand, what I really liked about it, I like all sports. All right. The two companies I got to work with, Wilson Sporting Goods, even though we were a big golf fan, they were a sporting good company.
Mm-hmm.
Nike is a sporting good company. So you get to do stuff like with Jordan with both companies, or see different. Well, it also allowed me to call on the universities. All right. So I was selling apparel to Ole Miss or Arkansas or used to Louisiana Tech before they came Adidas school like that. And that was really fun that you get to go in and see for me, the athletic part, even though most of that wasn't golf related because I was selling a Razorback or Johnny Reb at the time or Tiger or something like that. But that was really fun to get to go to those different universities. So
when that golf boom came, though, 97, when Tiger wins the Masters, we see the purses increase, we see the popularity increase. How long did it take Wilson and then Nike to be like, okay, we got to ramp up production here?
Wilson had already been around, obviously, for a long time, so they weren't really, I say they were adapting to it more than now. Nike was coming in full blow. They were going out and hiring people from all different golfers. They brought in the tour director of Spalding, a guy named Kel Devlin. He went out there and started hiring all these players. So, I mean, basically our staff went from not very many players to having – there was a lot more than just Tiger. I mean, they wanted to have guys like David Duvall came on. We had Azinger back then, Glenn Day. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had very many, players that came in. So our staff was pretty strong, and they used to win, a lot of majors and stuff back in that day. And they were, like young players. And they brought in Anthony Kim, who was one of the best ball strikers I've ever seen, because when you get to go do these clinics with them and you see them put on the machines and the TrackMans and all the spin numbers and you see the way they hit it and how solid they hit it, it's pretty fascinating, Also that part, when I told you with Wilson, I got to go with Bob Mandrella and see how close. Well, they did the same thing at Nike when they put the oven down there in Fort Smith. You go and you'd see them, work with the players and make irons. And if you like that kind of stuff, it was, really interesting. So
if anybody's never been in a tour truck to see where they mill clubs, grind them down, put new shafts in, throw a grip on, whatever it is, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and because when I started, I used to call on what was the Danny Thomas back then. They didn't have tour trucks when I started, so they sent everything to me. They did. I mean, so I would go over there. I'd have all the golf balls I'd have to put in their lockers and stuff like that, their gloves, and they would give me the clubs to give them too, like the new sets. Like, I send Andy Bean. He was playing with Wilson at that time. They send me like 4 sets of irons. They're all the exact set. He takes a club out of each and puts together one set. He's real particular like that. Then I'm over there with T.C. Chin, and he could barely speak English at the time.
Right.
And he comes and gets me and tugs on me because he can't speak it. And takes me into the pro shop and points up on the wall and wants a stock set off the wall. And I call our tour director, Joe Phillips, and go, hey, I'm here with T.C. Chin. And he wants a set of clubs, off the wall. And he goes get them for him. So I go to the pro, Jerry Hitton at the time, go, look, they just said he wants them to play with. I go, I'll send you another set. So you just see the diversity of the players. It was interesting. But it was fun for me because I'd have to go there on Monday and make sure they had all their balls and gloves and clubs or whatever. And now, obviously, every company has a huge tour van.
Oh, yeah.
Wilson was one of the first ones to have it. They had a really fancy one back there and used to do it. And, of course, you take all the local pros by there because they want to go in there, like you said.
Oh, yeah. It's so cool.
In there. And that was really the highlight of the week, that I get to take them in there.
I want to go to what I think is the greatest advertisement that came from a golf shot in the history of the game. 2005 Masters, Tiger's chip in for birdie on the 16th hole. He goes on to win the green jacket, but the golf ball, the Nike swoosh hanging on the edge of the cup and then finally dropping in. When you saw that, what was your reaction?
Well, I knew what you just said. I knew this was the greatest PR you're ever going to get for a product. And it's the fact, like you said, it stopped on the lip. The logo is showing there. It's there for like a second, and then it tumbles in, and of course, Vern Lindquist is making an iconic call, and you're getting the benefit from all that. So it was, that was really a big deal. And I mean, it was probably the most fortunate thing. I don't know if they took advantage of it as much as they could have, because that's a once in a generational moment like that, to have something like that kind of exposure from the number one golfer in the world playing your product, at that time is an up and coming brand, because Titleist obviously owns the ball market. So
it was pretty cool. When you look back, is there anything that you would have done different?
No, I mean, I had different opportunities to go to bigger territories and stuff like that. I had a chance to move to Fort Lauderdale and almost did it. But I like living here. I like Little Rock. I really do. And I'm not into the big city traffic, but I got tired of the travel but that was the draw to Florida, that, my longest drive would be like 30 miles.
Yeah, because there's so many clubs down there.
There's so much, and there's so much business, and it's right there. And the fact that, being home every night, but no, I really enjoyed my time with both companies. So, and I got to see them both in their peak. When I started with Wilson, we were the number one selling club at that time. I mean, the Staff Blade was the number one selling iron for like 25 years in a row. And that ended with the Ping I2. That's what, changed the market. But, Wilson was a forge company, back in the day, and that's what they were known for. And that's why they had all those tour players. When I started with them, we had 53 tour players, and they were all playing the clubs and the balls. The Pro Staff ball was the number 2 ball on the tour back then. So, I'm fine with it. It was good. And, I'm in a good place now, turning 70 next week, and, still get to play golf and stay where I want to be.
Nike decides to get out of the golfing business, the manufacturing golfing business. Do you think maybe they should have stayed in it when they have a guy like Scotty Scheffler out there now?
Well, yeah, I think you should have stayed in it. But that, when you change guys are running the company, and I'm talking about corporately, not the golf division, stuff like
management.
That. Right. And they didn't want to be in the club manufacturing part of the business. And it was an interesting thing because we didn't even know what was going to happen. The tour didn't even know what was going to happen. I mean, they did it like 2:00 in the afternoon on one day. I was out on the road. In fact, I was over at Hot Springs Country Club when I found out about it. I was talking to the guys there were tour guys were hitting balls on the range and coming back, and the van's closed. I mean, that's how quick it happened.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I was lucky because I was one of the few guys when I started with them. They had 2 different sales. They had guys that sell the equipment side, which clubs and balls, and they had the guys that sell apparel. And I used to have a big territory. I used to go down to New Orleans and stuff, and I told them that I wanted to keep both ends. And so it allowed me to have a smaller territory. And the apparel was really the biggest sales that, we had. So, I mean, with Tiger on TV all the time, apparel and shoes and stuff like that. But, they're an interesting company. They don't own any factories. They don't care like where they're pretty much a design and marketing team and stuff like that. And I guess they would be responsible for stocking all the, the clubs and all the different categories, stuff like that, because that's not really their business plan. So, but yeah, I wish they'd have stayed in. I mean, they've had the greatest staffs, for years. Roy McIlroy, they had him, and he was the number one player at that time, when they did that decision, and they had plenty of other players. I mean, you turn them on TV, you still see the swoosh and stuff. So
yeah, it's pretty iconic.
But they still do apparel, and they just got out of the ball club business, and that's basically what I was. I was a club guy my whole life. So
yeah, you still see that swoosh. It is pretty iconic. Best golf course you've ever played?
Well, I'll tell you, for me, it's Pebble Beach. I love Pebble Beach. It's my favorite hole in the world is number 8. I think it's the greatest golf hole in the world.
Tough hole.
But if you play out there, and the first time you go out there, you go to the first tee, you don't think you're at Pebble Beach because it's in the middle of all these buildings, and you're going like, "Where's Pebble Beach?" I mean, it's like you tee off between these condos, the store, and then you get out there like the third or fourth hole.
Yeah, number 4.
Yeah, and then you go up to number 6, where the iconic tree up there that the logo is, and it's just, and you go to the different tee. I mean, the run of 8, 9, and 10 is unbelievable. But you think of 17, you think Nicholas hitting that shot, or Tom Watson hitting that chip, You think of Jack when he's retiring, sitting on the fence on 18, tee box, It's just, I don't know. It's just, for me, it's my favorite, golf course. And I played a lot of, great courses, so it depends what you want. I mean, if you want to see a course that's in great shape, you can just go out to the Ocean, and it's as good shape as anything in golf,
Yeah.
But I like the Pacific Ocean. I like that hazard out there. So,
fantasy foursome, living or deceased, you and 3 others that you could play around to golf with. Who would they be?
I really, I like playing with my friends. So I'm sure I'd play like with Wynn Norwood and Dan Snyder and different guys that I've played with over my life. I'm not as much into the celebrity thing, I'd rather be with.
I mean, you've been up and close with Tiger Woods and all these others with Nike, so yeah, John Daly. So
yeah, so it's fun. So it would be with guys that and it's always fun, as to go on a trip with somebody like that, and you get to share Pebble Beach or Medina or whatever courses you're going to go play. So it's and there's so many. I mean, there's so many great courses. You're going to Chicago. There's so many great courses in Chicago that people don't even know about. Mm-hmm. I mean, courses that you don't even talk about anymore, like Butler National up there, or Cog Hill, or Kemper
Beverly.
Lakes. Yes. I mean, they're everywhere. I mean, they got 30 great golf courses out there. People don't even know their names.
I know.
And if you went out there, you'd just be going like, wow. I mean,
it's crazy. Kim, happy birthday.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining me.
No, thanks for having me.
From Central Arkansas to South Arkansas to Northeast Arkansas, across the state to Northwest Arkansas, you will find a Beechwood hospitality property. From the Haywood in El Dorado to the Hilton Garden in Jonesboro to the Doubletree in Bentonville and the Staybridge Suites just south of Baumwalker Stadium, Beechwood Hospitality has a room for you. Beechwood Hospitality is the leader in hotel property management in the state. Make sure you find a Beechwood Hospitality hotel for your next overnight stay.
I'm Dr. Lowry Barnes. When it comes to orthopedic care, there's no place like the Orthopedic and Spine Hospital at UAMS Health. We built this hospital just for you, with state-of-the-art surgical suites, advanced technology, and the state's largest group of fellowship-trained orthopedic surgeons. It's the best place in Arkansas to get you moving again. And if you need urgent orthopedic care, UAMS Ortho Now is right here for you at the Orthopedic and Spine Hospital at UAMS Health, where motion lives and service leads.
Welcome back to From the Short Grass, presented by UAMS Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine. I am Trey Schaap. Beechwood Hospitality, Matthew Allen and Blair Allen. They know how to manage hotel properties. When you need an overnight place to stay, make sure you're staying at a Beechwood Hospitality hotel. Find them on the web and look and find one of their great places to stay. You'll be glad you did. Congratulations to Andrew Hopkins. He wins the Arkansas State Golf Association match play over the weekend at Burns Park Golf Course. He defeated Nick Zimmerman 1-up. That's it for this edition of From the Short Grass, presented by UAMS Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine. As always, when you find your ball mark on the green, fix it and a couple of more. And I hope to see you sometime soon from the Short Grass.
You have been listening to From the Short Grass, presented by UAMS Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine, a weekly podcast dedicated to the game of golf. This has been a presentation of the Buzz Radio Network in association with Majestic Cubby Productions.